Our exhibit is upstairs, so if you have not seen it, you can simply take a look on your way out. But the exhibit at the Gray Art Gallery is what I really strongly recommend you to see, especially after, how many of you have seen it? I always do this thing. Great, I see that every time there are more and more people that have seen it, and all the comments and the reactions that I get from people that have seen it are very, very enthusiastic. So if you have not seen it yet, go see it, and I'm going to see again, because every time I go, I really get something more, especially using the photographs as a sort of a parallel form of reading the films that we are seeing in this series. So the exhibit at the Gray Art Gallery on Washington Square East. It's the Museum of New York University. Before introducing my colleague who will present tonight's film, I also would like to thank the Criterion Collection, because basically all of these screenings are possible thanks to the generosity that they show to us every time. And I also have to praise them, because if it weren't for the Criterion Collection, many of these films, or almost all of these films except one, would not be available on digital support in this country. And it would be impossible to teach courses on Italian cinema. It would be impossible to teach full-fledged courses on world cinema without these treasures. So what they're doing, of course, they're a company. They're there to make a profit, but they're also providing a phenomenal cultural support to all of us who are interested in international cinema and author cinema. And I just understand that they are launching their own streaming service, like a sort of elite Netflix, if you want, because they're going to have their beautiful catalog that includes author cinema, international cinema, classical cinema. Really, it's a fantastic collection. So keep your eyes open. It's the Criterion Collection streaming channel is coming, I believe, in the spring 2019. So I'm going to subscribe, and you might want to consider that too, because you will find all these things available on your screens. And now it's finally time for me to introduce to you my dear colleague, Jenny McPhee. Jenny is the director of the Center for Applied and Liberal Arts, and she's also a professor and a writer and a translator. She teaches translation. Among her books, I just want to remember as a writer, The Center of Things, No Ordinary Matter, and A Man of No Moon. And among her translations, I would like to remind just the two that we presented here more recently, Curzio Malaparte's Kremlin Ball and Natalia Ginzburg, Cronaca Familiare. Is that right? Yes. And it's always a pleasure to welcome Jenny here. To us, having an ally, not in the Italian department, but an Italianist by training, by heart, by passion, by knowledge, in another sister division of NYU. It's an incredible fortune. It's a great pleasure. And any chance we have to collaborate with her and to have her back at the Casa is always welcome. So please welcome Jenny McPhee.
Thank you so much, Stefano. And thank you to everyone at the Casa Italiana, Zerilli-Marimò, and to the Gray Art Gallery for the wonderful exhibit, NeoRealism, the New Image in Italy, 1932 to 1960, which Stefano just plugged, and I'm going to plug again. Even if you're the most jaded person who thinks, I've seen it all, neorealism, I've seen everything, I went to that exhibit and was just astonished at how fabulous it is and how much I didn't know about neorealism. And I guarantee that if you go, you will be thankful. So I also just wanted to mention this incredible screen and to thank whatever board member participated in helping have that happen. Because that's phenomenal. So my connection to Giuseppe De Santis's film Riso Amaro, or bitter rice, is a deeply personal one, the tendrils extending out from various aspects of the film to many points and places in my own personal history that are too many for me to get into here, but I will tell you about one or two of them as we go along. But first, let me give you a little background to the film. Released in 1949 and starring Silvana Mangano, Vittorio Gassman, and Doris Dowling, Riso Amaro enjoyed an enormous success at the box office in Europe and in the US. The film is certainly an intriguingly bizarre mingling of genres and themes, including melodrama, docudrama, crime film, noir, the musical, social commentary, eroticism, a condemnation of American culture, a critique of capitalism, class exploitation, and labor practices. So with neorealism somewhere in the mix. But I think it's accurate to say that the film's ultimate triumph was due to what the Italians called the sessapiglio, or sex appeal, of Silvana Mangano, which you will soon see is rather off the charts. So here I'll tell you about one of those tendrils from my personal history. When I was a young girl, my father was a reporter working for Time magazine covering the show business beat. He worked at home, and on his office wall was a framed and signed photograph of Silvana Mangano. For several years, say from age 5 to 10, I secretly believed Silvana Mangano was my mother. Not the imposter who was always telling me to clean up my room and do my homework. So I won't go into much detail about the beguiling plot of Riso Amaro, but I will point out a few ancillary items. First, the ingenious title, Riso Amaro, is a play on words, riso meaning both rice and laughter. So the meaning of the title is really bitter rice, bitter laughter. The film is set amongst the women rice planters and pickers who came from all over Italy during the season to work for minimal pay in the paddy fields in the province of Vercelli in northern Piedmont in the Po Valley. The region remains the heart of European rice production today. So from now on, whenever you eat a delicious risotto con funghi porcini or a risotto al zafferano, your pleasure will be enhanced by images of Silvana Mangano. In the context of neorealism, Riso Amaro is what the scholars call modified neorealism. The film alternates between melodramatic scenes full of crime film tropes and newsreel-type depictions of rice workers who, aside from the principal actors, were played by non-professionals. Silvana, however, is far from non-professional and more the embodiment of the ultimate pulpy pin-up diva of the 1950s. Her character is a voluptuous symbol of the sins of Hollywood and American commodity culture, but also symbolic of the decadence of fascism. Her co-star, Doris Dowling, who's ironically American, plays Francesca, and instead she symbolizes the moral center of Italian working-class collectivity and the Italian woman as preserver of the family and of social order. She is a symbol of redemption after 20 years of fascism. Like everything else in this film, the attitude towards gender is fascinatingly complicated. The narrative and camera work ricochets between reverence for female power and independence and sheer objectifying lust for the female body, between the female struggle to resist the corrupting and repressive influence of men and a highly eroticized depiction of female labor. This tension between worthy and tabloid sensibilities and how the two are perhaps inextricable is really at the heart of the film. Praised for its bold camera style, Riso Amaro was also a calculated vehicle for launching the careers of Silvana Mangano and her soon-to-be husband, Dino De Laurentiis, who was the film's executive producer. He was working for the renowned production company Lux Film, and it worked like a charm. With the 18-year-old Mangano bombshell in a film rife with taboos from illicit sex, nudity, murder, rape, suicide, abortion, to a realistic childbirth scene, the movie had infuriated the church in Italy, and the Vatican had labeled it, quote, rigorously forbidden to the faithful. The Communist Party, which shared a certain Puritanism with the Catholic Church, did not much like Riso Amaro either, disapproving of the American music in the film. Just wait till you see the boogie-woogie scenes. They claimed that the workers didn't appear genuine, and of course there was too much sex. One Marxist critic wrote, "The workers cannot be educated with the bare legs of Silvana." So when Lux brought the film to the US, they deliberately avoided submitting the film to the Production Code Administration for approval, something they got away with since this was a foreign film. Of course, the movie was wildly popular, and Mangano would go on to have 4 children with De Laurentiis, as well as 4 more decades of a robust acting career. De Laurentiis would produce more than 500 films, 38 of them nominated for Academy Awards, including this one, for the story, the screenplay. Giuseppe De Santis went on to make 9 more films, but none were as successful at the box office as this one. So I first saw Bitter Rice in 2004 at the Italian Academy at Columbia, where I ran an Italian film series at the time. At that screening, as the credits rolled, I turned to my friend Lali, who was 80 at the time. She was an Italian of Russian descent who had been a young woman living in Rome during the war and just after. I asked, who's Doris Dowling? And why was someone with such an American name starring in a very Italian film? She explained to me that because of the Italian practice of dubbing, many American starlets who couldn't get work in Hollywood came to Rome right after the war and found work at Cinecittà, which was the case for Doris, who arrived in Rome in 1948. Doris herself once explained that she'd come to Italy because, quote, Paramount gave me too few roles beyond playing a savage bitch killed off in the first scene. But Lali told me that even more interesting than Doris was her older sister, Constance Dowling, a great beauty and a leading lady in Hollywood who decided to accompany her sister to Italy in order to get over her long affair with the married director Elia Kazan. Once in Italy, Constance began another affair with the poet and writer Cesare Pavese. The affair ended when Pavese killed himself in August of 1950. This story of sisters, post-war Italy and America, Hollywood and Cinecittà, fascism and democracy, literature and cinema sparked my imagination and became the impetus for my 3rd novel, entitled A Man of No Moon, published in 2007, which I really should have called Death Will Come and Shall Have Your Eyes, the title of one of Pavese's final poems, apparently written for Constance Dowling. So let's watch Riso Amaro. It will be a unique experience, I guarantee it. Thank you.